Hi, this is a brief video describing the steps to attaching tubing to a B-size linear pump on a 20 pitch actuator. Some of the tools you should have to make nice straight cuts on the tubing. Here's a little tubing cutter. This one is for 3/16 OD tubing, and then I have another one for 1/8 inch and 3/16 tubing. Next we're going to take a look at the tubing and the nut. This nut is a 5/16 24 thread for the 3/16 OD tubing. Once you have made a nice cut with a tubing cutter, it's nice and straight, you just put on the nut, and then you will use the ferrule, and hopefully you can see that a little bit in my hand here. This ferrule has a smaller side and a larger opening. You want to put the smaller opening first onto the tubing, and you want this to be nice and flush with the edge of the tubing. You don't want the tubing sticking out. You want it nice and flush with a straight piece of tubing. And then we'll set this aside for a moment. It's going to be ready to put into the fitting. Now the fittings on the pump for this size tubing is what we call a 5/16 24 adapter. And what this is made up of is a stainless steel adapter. The thread size is for 5/16 24. It also needs a Teflon face seal. The thing to recognize about this face seal is it has one side with a beveled opening, and this is probably going to be a little bit difficult to see on the camera, and then there's another side with a flat surface. Now this one is the 1/8 inch ID hole to go with 3/16 by 1/8 inch ID tubing. You want to make sure that the flat side of this seal, Teflon seal, goes down into the adapter. Okay, this is important to make sure you get a really good seal on the cylinder. I seem to be having trouble dropping everything today. Okay, the next thing you need is the threaded castellated sleeve, and the adapter is going to sit down into the threaded castellated sleeve, so these little tabs here at the bottom, and that will then be placed onto the stainless steel case. So that is just threaded in there by hand, and then you take your spanner wrench and just snug it down. Okay. Next you're ready to put the tubing into the fitting. So just hand tighten this, and then if you have one of these little torque wrenches, it's kind of a good thing to use so that you don't over tighten. You slide this over over the nut, and you turn it until you hear the clicking. That way you don't have to worry about over tightening. There, that's tight. So now I'm going to pull this straight out and do the same for the other side. Now the other side, the only difference is I have smaller tubing. So this is the 1/8 inch OD tubing. This takes a 1/4 28 nut, and again the small ferrule. And just like the other blue ferrule, this one also has a larger end and a more narrow end. You want to put the narrow end onto the tubing. Just snug it in, and again you want it flush. You don't want the tubing protruding out. You want it nice and flush with the end of the ferrule. You should have a nice straight cut after you've used your tubing cutter. So now you have the ferrule ready with the tubing. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the other side. I'm just going to pull this one off for a moment because I dropped my other castellated sleeve. Okay, we have another stainless steel adapter. This one is for 1/4 thread. It has the same Teflon seal. One side is beveled, the other side flat. We're going to put the flat side down into the adapter and take the threaded castellated sleeve and drop it down in with the little key things down at the bottom here. Drop it in, and we're going to put this onto the case just like we did the other one. This is our outlet side. Snug it up. We're going to take the spanner wrench and tighten it down. Now it's ready for the tubing. I'm going to take the tubing in, thread it in by hand, and then we'll take the little torque tool, slide it over the tubing, onto the nut, give it a twist until we hear the clicking. There, that's tight. Pull it straight out. And you're ready to go.